friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop. Getting ready to start a brand new project. It could be a big one. I'm not really sure, to be honest. I haven't looked at it that close yet. It's been in the shop here for almost a month, just trying to get caught up. It's a pretty cool looking old guitar. Look at the case. That'll give you your first clue. There's the case. And the first problem is we've got to make a new handle for this, or put a new handle on it. I've got some handles in stock here that we can put on there. Very similar, not exactly the same, but we'll just put this one back in the case and they can keep it. Look at that beauty. There's a real beauty there. That thing looks like it's in pristine condition for the most part, except for it looks like all the plastic here is disintegrated. This was a plastic string holder here. I don't know how they would have ever expected that to hold. I gotta be honest, that just doesn't even make sense. And some people say that it's tortoiseshell. I don't think so. I don't think tortoiseshell would look like that and disintegrate like this disintegrated. Show you a close-up of that. It's just, I'm sure it's a plastic, like a cellulose plastic, something like that they had back then. I think this pick guard here is the same material too. So anyway, we're going to do our best with it. We can't fix this, but what we can do is make a copy of it, maybe out of ebony wood or something like that, or maybe out of rosewood, something that'll look similar, and we can make it look almost identical and put it right back on here. Anyway, we'll come up with something and figure it out. Pretty darn cool old guitar. Let's see, we've got a note here, and let's see what the note says. Mr. Rosa, my name is Mike. I live in south central Nebraska. I recently purchased this guitar at a sale in a small town in Kansas. It needs the bridge and tailpiece repaired and has, now it says bridge, I'm looking at the bridge, I don't offhand see a problem with the bridge, but there may be one that I just don't realize. I think maybe there's a crack in the bridge there or something I can kind of see. So maybe there is a problem, I'm not sure. And has what looks like 4 small cracks on the back, 2 at the top by the neck and 2 at the bottom. Please inspect this and I will trust your judgment on what you think should be done. I would also like you to install whatever strings you think are the best and set it up the way you think it's best. P.S. I love your YouTube videos and will subscribe soon. Please make a video of your work on this guitar. It will be an added bonus of having it restored for me. But we're gonna recreate this out of wood, and it'll be stronger, and I think it'll be just fine, and it'll look really good too. The very first thing we're going to do on this is replace this handle. We've got a pretty similar replacement handle. As a matter of fact, this one's black, this one's brown. This one actually matches the case better, so I'm going to go ahead and put this one on there. I probably could repair it myself if I really wanted to. But you get into a lot of time and everything just for a handle, and this one will be just fine and we'll make it work and function perfectly, so that's what we're going to do. Save the customer a lot of time and money, and in my opinion, I think it's going to look better anyway because it's black. There you go, that's what she looks like with the new handle now. So now we can carry her around the shop here and don't have to worry about it, falling, breaking. Just so you know, I just freshly cleaned the carpet again. This carpet is very soft. I have had negative comments saying, even like carving those tops, they'll say, all those shavings, they're going to scratch your top. Well, that's why I use this carpet. It's soft, and the shavings will mash down in there, and it doesn't scratch your top. It'd be just akin to stepping on a Lego. The old thing about everybody talks about stepping on a Lego going through the house, and it hurts like heck. Well, put that Lego on a piece of concrete, step on it, put it on this carpet and step on it, see which one you think hurts worse, So that's the difference. It softens everything. It puts it down in there. That's why I use it. Obviously, the old strings are of no value whatsoever. They already appear to be loose, but yeah, they're very loose. I'm just going to cut them. Wow, like I said, oh no, there's one peg missing. That may be in the case. I'll look. I think I saw a peg in that case. I hope it's in there. Doesn't really matter on these pegs which hole they go in, because we're making a whole new piece for it anyway. And the wire's bent right here because it got pulled and broke like that. So, tell you what we'll do. So that we're not working on top of this guitar, like we know it doesn't have any scratches, so we really want to take good care of it. Let's just take this back off of here. I haven't looked at the back yet. He said there's cracks on the back, but I don't even want to turn it over with all this loose stuff here on the top. I don't want to turn it over until I get all this off of here. It looks like it's a Gibson L3 is what it says. It's a little smaller. I don't, like I've told you many times, I don't study all the models. I don't even try to know what all the models are all about, because there's just too much to keep track of, and I get so many varied different instruments in the shop. Okay, so now we've got this loose. I was hoping that would help me pop this tail button out, because a lot of times those tail buttons are jammed in there because of this tail piece, but it doesn't look like it in this case. It doesn't look like that's going to help me get it out of there. I really didn't want to break this or destroy it, and wow, it's wooden too. I'm going to take the strings loose on the other end up there now before I do anything else. He said the bridge needed repair. Just looking at it though, I don't see anything wrong with the bridge. I really don't see anything wrong with that. It says patent January 18th, 1921 on that. Now that's what the old original ones look like. See, it has a hole right here for that pick guard to go into in this case. Let's take the rest of the pick guard off if we can get it off, so that we don't stand any chance of scratching or breaking it. It's very old plastic too, and it came right off, no problem. Real easy came off. Because this plastic is so fragile, I'm just going to put it in the case and lay it in the case, because I don't want to take a chance on it getting banged around here on the table. Okay, so we got all the loose parts off. Now we can work on this a little better and see if we just get lucky and get this pin out of there without breaking anything. I don't want to, this pin is wooden, and if you grab a hold of it with anything metal, you're just going to either crack it, break it, or scratch it at the very minimum. I've got this wooden wedge. I'll stick it in here a little bit and see if it'll go and pull it out. That may pop it out of there. Put one on both sides. These are both really slick, smooth wedges. So I'll try one on each side and see if that'll pop the pin out. There it did. That did it. I think that did it. There you go. Let that be a lesson to you if you need to get one of them out of there. Look at there. Pulled it out. And they had put tape around it to make it tighter. So it was very tight, I'll say that. Okay, we got that off. No damage to anything using those slick wooden wedges there. Okay, well, let's set this aside so it doesn't get hurt. I'm going to hang it on the wall here on a hanger. Let's look at the back now that we're talking about it. Yeah, there's a minor little crack, he said, here, and two very minor cracks up here. And they're very, very, very minor. Even these two are a little bit bigger, but they don't look to be anything to be too concerned about right now. We'll look at those closer later on, but right now those don't look like any big harm or problem. Those are the bigger two. The two up there are pretty small. All right, let's see if we can get these nuts off. Here's a 1/4 inch wrench, and it looks like that's going to fit it, and it looks like it's going to come loose, so we just got lucky there. take that apart, take the nut off. The nut just goes right on the end of there. Let's see if we get lucky and get this to come off. I'm trying not to break this piece, mostly because it's a good pattern. Not that it's very valuable at this point. There's a close-up of it now, and you can see how the plastic there has just deteriorated. And you can see how slick the plastic is there where it broke. That was the last place it held on, I guess, and broke. Now we'll take off this other side. I hope this isn't stripped. Uh-oh, something's wrong. Okay, we got a problem. I was spinning that and it kept spinning, and I thought, well, it's coming off, but it's not. The rod is broke. I can tell already. Inside of here, the rod is broke because it's spinning and this rod's not spinning. That's not good. Whatever caused that rust or whatever corrosion caused that to corrode and break right there too. You can see it's a very old brake. It's got no shininess to it. It didn't just break. It's very, very old and corroded. I'm going to glue that together with some super glue, CA glue, to use that as my pattern while it's still good before it crumbles anymore. Not too concerned about this either. Believe it or not, I think I can remake this and make it look just like original. At least I think I can. May have to get me some brass rod though. I think this is probably brass rod. Let's test that. It may be steel. No, it's brass. Or nickel or something. It's definitely not steel. See? So, it's definitely not steel. So, if I could get me a piece of brass rod that size, then we should be able to remake that and make it look just like original and put the threads on it and everything. I'm going to check all that out real quick to see if I've got the threading die and see about ordering these parts, or see about ordering a piece of brass like this. I happen to remember that I've got welding rods and things. This is for TIG welding, and unfortunately it's magnetic. It looks this very similar color, very similar. I think this is more silver than this is more coppery colored or something. But anyway, it's exactly the right diameter. Now this is magnetic where the other stuff is not. But this is a possibility. We might end up using this because it's exactly the right size. And we know it's strong because it's steel. Here, on the other hand, is some brazing rod. Now, I haven't seen how big this is. I have a feeling it's going to be smaller. This is the coated kind, unfortunately. But let's see what size it is. It's just a hair smaller, but not much. It's only about 4,000 smaller, so that would be usable, I think. Let's see, is this magnetic? I don't think so, no, because it's brazing. Well, here's a piece. I don't know if this piece would be long enough. Probably not. It's almost long enough. Let's see if we could get this out of here to see how long it is. I'm going to try to unbend it here without bending this metal. I'm just trying to bend the wire. It's a little hard on my fingers, but I mean, the other possibility is to do some very fine TIG welding and weld right on the end of this. That's a possibility, and I'm not going to say we won't do that yet, but it doesn't look like a very good option. Let's see if I can straighten this out without kinking it so it'll pull through here. It's going. There we go. We got it. Bent it straight enough that we got her through there. Okay, before I go any further, I'm going to check this angle right, and I'm going to draw this angle out on a piece of paper just so I'll have it to bend back to. Got a piece of cardstock paper here. I'm going to use this as my template so that when we bend this back, we'll know the angle to bend it back to. This This part here doesn't look to have been deformed, at least this much of it. Now up here it is, but that's a good angle then, and then, you know, we can make the piece that'll bend, you know, both like that, and make the other side of it too. I'm not sure though just how long it needs to be. To double check it, let's say about right there. Trying to get it lined up as perfect as I can. That's our template. So we'll save that for when we make this back, that we'll have something for a good template there. We'll take this, straighten it out as straight as we can get it also. The reason we're doing that is for length. I want to get the exact right length on this. The other piece here, we'll have to get it apart so that we can get a good length on it. Let's see if we can get that little nut to come off of there. There, it came right off. So now we should be able to lay this down and get an exact length on this. I've got the wire laid right alongside the ruler, and it's 11 1/16 of an inch. So we can make an exact length copy, 11 1/16 inches long. And we've got the other one here for the threading length. We've got these here that we can recreate those threads the same exact length. Should be able to make an exact copy that nobody would know the difference, other than the type of material. And let's see here. It looks like this piece that I had here will be long enough, so that'll work out. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just cut off the ends because they've been used more or less from brazing. Make sure that it's still plenty long. I'll cut it off later to the exact length. But what I got to do is get rid of this flux coating on here now, and that it more or less breaks off or peels off. So I'm just going to clean that off and clean up the wire, and then we'll see what we ended up with. I should have measured the length of this before I unbent it, but I didn't. You know, I was able to see about where it looked like it was bent before and lay it on here and figure that out. And it looks like the length of the side needs to be 4 13/16 on here. This is still a little long, and that's okay. I'm going to mark 4 13/16. Maybe I should just thread both ends. I was thinking about seeing how well it fits this, but this is just a hair undersize. I mean, I'm getting about 95 thousandths on that. I'm getting about right on 100 thousandths on this, so about 5 thousandths smaller. That's the diameter of a human hair smaller. I just wonder if this will hold up, if this material, this brass, will hold up. I think it will. The only other option is to use the steel I've got, the welding rod that's steel. It looks very similar to this as far as color goes. I don't know if it'll keep that color or if it might rust. So I'm a little torn on which way to go here. Just about exactly like the original there once you clean it up. Maybe that's what they used, was a brazing rod for this too. Who knows? This is one of those things where the order of operations matters. And I think I've got a pretty clear order of operations in my head here, so I guess I might as well just go ahead and follow it. I've got that end square, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it to length. And 11 1/16 is the length. And I'm just pinch it off on the outside of that, so it's just a hair long, if anything. Compares to the length here now. Probably a 32nd long, if anything. Yeah, that's pretty darn close there. If anything, it's still long though. Not by enough that it would matter. I have a 540 die here. 5 is the size, 40 is 40 teeth per inch. It seems to screw right onto this. I was kind of surprised at that, but it does. It seems to screw right on there, and it tightens down So that's the old threads, and I think we're going to give that a shot to see if we can thread the end of this. I think I've got a holder that I can put this in, but this is so small and the brass is soft enough, I think I can do it all by hand and just do it right here. At least I'm going to give it a shot. That may be all I need to do right there. So let's see if a nut will screw on there. See if we get lucky that way. Not quite so lucky that way yet. I'll try the other nut just in case. It seems like it's wanting to start. It's sort of kind of wanting to go, but it's not going. So I've got my block of ebony here. I'm tracing this on here. As I mentioned, there's a bunch of angles going on. The problem I have with this is that there's nothing flat on it anywhere. Everything's just kind of curvy. Let's just see how thick this total is. 436. Let's see on this front edge. It's about 400 there. Double check it here. About 430 there. So I'm going to go ahead and smooth this out. I've got it just about to thickness already. I did take into account the little arch there, but maybe I didn't take enough into account. It's going to be very tight. It's going to work, but it's going to be really tight. I don't have any room to play. I'm going to run this through the thickness sander just to get rid of these sharp saw marks. I've got it smoothed out better now. I can draw a better diagram on here, or to copy it, you know. And it's pretty tight. I could have made the block a hair bigger. With this ebony, you don't like to waste it, so I don't make it much bigger. But it's big enough. Should work just fine. We're going to sand that down to that shape first. I've got the shape duplicated, you know, as near perfect by eye as you can get it. I mean, it matches the curves in all the sides when just laying here flat. Now there's another curve on the top and a curve on the bottom. I haven't done those yet, but I don't want to do those until I get the holes put in here. I've got my transfer punch here. Of all the transfer punches, this was the only one of the close size that would go all the way through. The next bigger one wouldn't go quite all the way through. So that makes this a little bit of a loose fit. I think it'll be okay. I'm just going to push on them. I'm not going to hit it because I'm afraid of hitting it as hard and brittle as this ebony is. I might actually crack the wood and cause the wood to split, and I don't want that to happen. The last hole still is a hole, so thank goodness for that. It's just barely a hole though. But that looks real good. Looks real nice. We'll go to the drill press and drill these out with the proper size drill bit. That looks like a good match to me. It's got a slight radius to it. To the best of my ability, I've marked where these holes go with a little X on each side by measuring and by comparison with the other part. I've got a 3/32 drill bit in here which measures just under 100 thousandths, which is basically what my wire is measuring. And we're just going to go for it. This little block of wood here makes this angle straight up and down because, you know, there's an angle on the end here. So this now, it drills it parallel to this end is what it mounts to. Well, we've got her mechanically finished. Now we got to make it look pretty by putting the arches and rounding it and all that kind of stuff. We've got most of the profiling done. it's got a little bit of a curve to it now, not a lot, but a little bit. This wire is just too big to go down through those holes by just a hair. I mean, I could probably force it, but I don't want to force it. This 2.5 millimeter is just a few thousandths bigger than the drill I used, so I'm going to take the this 2.5 millimeter and go through here and open the hole up just a little bit more. Well, that was a good decision. That just made it perfect. I mean, it's absolutely tight. There's no play in it at all, but it just fits it like a glove, so that's perfect. Now, I went ahead and ordered a new die and tap for this, a new die especially for the end of this, because apparently those little nuts were even smaller than what I had. I had a 440, I had a 540, but apparently it's a 440. So I've ordered a 440, the best I could measure anyway. That's what it looks like it would be. And we'll have to rethread this tomorrow, and then we'll bend it and get this all put back together. And this guitar, it's not going to take much to get this guitar back on the road. Well, something else I could do while I'm waiting on my parts to get here is I could ream these holes a little bit, watch the reamer, and when it comes through just about, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch or so, I'll stop and see. Okay, it's not quite big enough yet, so we're going to need some more reaming. That's pretty close. It's not perfect, but we'll work on it some more and get it a little closer. Well, that's pretty good. That's about as good as it's going to get, I believe. I'm going to see now about just waxing it up. Actually, I think this ebony wood is so tight grained that I think I'm just going to wax it on top of that, and I think that's going to make it look the way I want it to look. This stuff is so hard and the grain is so tight that just waxing it like this, I believe, is going to make it look really nice. Gives it a real nice feel. It's almost like a smooth plastic the way it feels here now. It's really slick, really clean looking. Got a little wax down in the hole there that I want to clean out, of course. There, I think that shows off how nice and slick it looks. It's just as slick as it can be. I think it's going to make a real nice look once we get it on the guitar. We'll have to show you what that looks like in a little bit. I don't know why I never noticed this before, but I really just looked at it, and there's a huge difference in the symmetry from this side to this side. I don't know if it needs to be that way or what, but we'll look at that later too. But you can see this side is much thicker through here than this side is. So that looks different or very odd to me. But once we set the guitar up, we'll take a close look at that and see why that is, or if it needs to be that way. And we can adjust that if we need to. I got the new little 440 die. It's a little tiny thing. And I put the threads on there on that end just like that, and it spins on there pretty good. It goes down to a certain point and gets tight. And I turned it over also just to clean the threads out real good, you know, because the other side is smaller, as you know, it's bigger on one side, and then and so I went through it like that a couple of times, cleaned up the end of the threads on this new rod, and sure enough, it makes this little nut go right on there, and I can tighten it down right like that, and that should work just fine. We've got our new piece here that this will go through, and that should work like that. So that looks good. I think we've got it. So now we've got to get this all bent, put into that other part, and get the other end threaded. But I guess we can thread the other end first before we do all the bending. So let's just get that done. And hopefully this will go good. I think we got her. Now let's see if the other nut will go on that end. Seems like it's wanting to. So, looks like we've got the nuts on both ends now on there, solid, very solid. And now all we got to do is bend this and fit it all back together, and we're good to go. I think while I've got these screwed on there and they're on there real tight, I'm going to take this to the wire wheel and clean up these nuts because they are very rusty looking. And I think we can, like this one here's not so bad, but this must have been on the side where all that corrosion happened, and this one's really corroded, so there must have been something going on that one side. It's very strange. I cleaned up both of them. You can see how shiny and bright that is now, and the other end is shiny and bright, but it has some very minute pitting in it where that corrosion was, but it's very minute and it's almost not even noticeable. So we're real good. This is going to be real nice when we get this all bent and set up correctly. I'm going to clean up some of the crud on the back end of this. I'm not trying to polish it out to make it look like brand new, but I would like to get rid of the corrosion looking stuff that's on there. Well, that looks all right. It looks fairly clean. I'm not going to try, again, I'm not trying to make it look like brand new. We could polish that up and make yourself like a mirror, but I think that would look weird on the thing. So just cleaning it up and not trying to polish it exactly. Okay, let's get this put together and bent in place. I think what I'll do is put it in here and mark both sides so that I'll know where to bend it. I can only bend one side of it at a time. I mean, I can bend one side and then put it back in here. That looks pretty much centered to me. That looks pretty darn centered according to the measurements there. I'm going to mark this here and here and know that I need to bend it outside those marks there just a little bit. Actually, I was going to use the pliers, but I think it'd be better if I bend it, just put that mark just barely inside the vise there, and then just pull it like so. Let's see, I could do it kind of like this. Let's take it out of there now and lay it on top of here and see how close that is. That's got to be pretty close. Yeah, just a little bit more, just hardly any more. Just bending this just a little bit more to, I think it's going to fit my pattern right here. That's crazy. Well, we'll have to open up the hole again with that 2.5 millimeter drill bit. I ran the drill through there one more time on those holes, and it's so close to going, it's just not funny. I'm gonna just take my time and just tap them both on here, and hopefully we'll get it on through. Maybe not, I don't know. There it is. As long as it didn't break it, I think we're good. Oh my goodness, that is hard. The holes are tighter than I was expecting, but they're working. Now we'll just put the nuts on. There you go. Completely remade. I think that's just about as good as it's going to get. The wires look good and straight, everything looks symmetrical, so let's put it on there and see what it looks like. I'm really anxious to put this guitar back together, but one of the things that the customer pointed out was this little light crack in here, you know, whether we should fix that or not. I took this little high power magnifier and looked down at the crack, and sure enough, it does go beyond just the finish. There is a little light crack in the wood. It's very small. It's not a big deal. To be perfectly honest with you, it would be fine if you didn't do anything at all. And I may regret this. I may regret this deeply. But I'm going to see if we can't seal that little crack with a little CA glue and buff this out where you really can't hardly tell it. I'm going to be very careful doing this because you can make it worse rather than better. To play it as safe as I can, I've got that taped off on the sides just to be sure I don't just drop a big drop on there. I'm going to give that a few seconds here. It's running down that way, so I'm trying to let it flow back just a little bit to the deeper part of the groove. It's not flowing much, so it's just about done. I'm pulling the tape off because I don't really want the glue to adhere to the tape. Looks pretty good. Just before it, you know, just wanting to make sure it does get hard all the way through. So I'm going to spritz it very lightly with this. I know a lot of people would not recommend this, but I've had good luck doing it. After waiting this long, that is. Very light spritz of that, just to make sure that it gets hard so that I don't spend hours waiting on this. Okay, while I'm letting that one get a little more firm, we're going to do the same thing to this other smaller crack. Now the other crack is pretty small. By the way, off camera, I took the brush and made the bristles fairly stiff, like that. This is a soft brush, by the way, but I hold real close to the end, and I get in there and I clean out the crack just as much as I possibly can. Now we're going to try just a little bit of glue in this crack. I always wipe off the end of that with a little towel so that I don't have any extra big drop fall down on there. The idea behind using the CA glue is, especially the super thin viscosity like that, is that it'll actually not only fix the finish, but it'll go down in and fix the crack in the wood too. And I'm pulling off the tape, as you notice, toward the glue so that it doesn't smear it. And I'm blowing on it to let it cure a little bit before I spritz it with this, because again, I don't want it to turn white, but this makes it get hard faster. Okay, I think we can move on to step 2 of fixing this crack, and that would be to level the glue down to the surface. There are 2 issues with leveling this off. 2 more than normal, let's say it that way. One is that we're in a curved part of the wood, which never makes it easy. And the second thing is that they're so close together that the razor blade is going to ride on the other one as I'm trying to fix the one I'm working on. So it's, you know, it just is what it is. You just got to take your time. I took the razor blade and taped it off so that, you know, it is only touching right there in the very center of the razor blade. And I'm just walking that down the glue joint. It's really awkward because of this, of them being close together is my biggest problem here. It doesn't seem to be working very well, I gotta be honest. So I'm going to try a different tactic, and one that would be dangerous, but I've done it many times before, so I think I can pull it off. I'm going to sharpen up the rounded edge of this X-Acto knife where only the round edge will be touching, and I'm going to just carefully scrape it with that. But I'm going to sharpen it a little bit more first. It feels incredibly sharp. I'm just going to take my time and work on it, and I've got my close-up glasses on where I can see pretty close, and just very, very lightly scrape just the glue joint. I'm really trying not to touch anything but the glue. For the record, had these cracks only been in the finish, I wouldn't have done anything. But because they did go down into the wood a little bit, I thought I'd better go ahead and just seal it with this. We're going to get a little sandpaper now and work on this. We're going to use like 1200 to start with, and just maybe go up a little bit more than that and see what we can do. I have some 1200 sandpaper I'm starting off with, wet or dry, 3M brand, and I've got a little bit of soapy water there. Well, that looks pretty good. You know, to be perfectly honest with you, you can still see it a little bit, but at least it's not a crack now. At least it's sealed. It's not, I don't think it looks any worse than it did. It looks about the same in terms of looks. The difference just being that you don't, well, I would say it's a little less noticeable now. These two little bitty cracks up here, they're so tiny, I'm not even going to do anything to them. But these two were a little bigger, and that's why we went ahead and addressed those. But, you know, from an angle or you know, just glancing, you just don't hardly see it. When you get the light just right, you see it pretty easily, but it's not too bad. I think that was a good decision overall. You know, I was on pins and needles doing that one because it's just, you got such a nice old finish here, and I don't want to mess it up. So let's go ahead and do the Renaissance wax over the whole back. I think we can make the whole back look really nice. We're going to go down inside this guitar and see what it looks like. I'm going to look at the bracing and different things up in there to see if we see any problems up in the top of the against the top of the guitar. We're going all the way back towards the back. There's the heel block. There is a brace along this side. It looks good. It's braced a little like a mandolin. It's got two braces across the top, sort of like a mandolin. As far as I can tell from the photos, the braces look to be tight, but I got to be honest, it's hard to tell because it's hard to hold the camera perfectly still and get real good close-up images. There's a picture of it if you can tell there. Looks good to me. Let's go back up here. Here's a picture of the brace that's just inside the sound hole. May not make much sense to you there. And let's just look around on the front side here. And that's what it looks like on the front. There's the neck block. There's a serial number on the neck block there, 11586. That's on the neck block. Now here's a close-up of the label. You can see there it says guitar 695 and I think it's 6951. It almost looks like a C, but I guess it's a 0. Six nine five one. Could be a 0, could be a 6. I'm going to go for a 6 on that. Hard to say though. I got to be honest on that. I can't tell. And the style says L3. Right there, L3. As much as I want to say this thing is in original, unretouched condition, I can't honestly say that. I really want to say that's original finish, but there's 2 things that I see, maybe even 3, that make me question it. And they're minor, and they would be something you'd really have to look for to make you question it. Okay, one of them, and I doubt the camera's going to pick this up, but we'll see if we can see it in the camera. One of them is, if you get it at the right angle, there appears to be almost like brush strokes of some kind of dye that go at an angle right here. See if we can see it in the camera. I don't know if it's possible. Maybe a little bit. It's like right here, that dark spot that you can kind of see. It's going at a swirl like this, and it continues very light streaks down through here. That makes me wonder what that is and where that came from. I don't think that would have been from the factory issue. The next thing that makes me wonder is there's a dark spot right here where I think the pick guard wore it out, and it looks like it's under the current finish. You know, if it was on the finish, then I'd say this finish is original. But because it's under the finish, I'd say it looks like it's been patched and then finished over the top of it. That's what it looks like. Now granted, there's a new finish mark here which is on the finish, on top of the finish, but this dark one is under the finish. That makes me suspect. The third thing that makes me suspect that this has been refinished is this dye checking in the grain here. It's like dye that caught surface grain in the spruce, and it's on this side and this side, and it's like it went into the end grain, like on this domed spruce there will be some end grain exposed, and it's like it went into the end grain or something like that. And I don't know if you can see that very well either in the video, but try to show it to you here on camera. It's right in here. I don't know how well that shows up, but anyway, that makes me suspect too. But whoever did it did a super good job. They really did a good job if they refinished it. So that wouldn't just immediately scare me off from buying this guitar, because it's a really nice guitar. And everything about it is really nice. Inside, everything's nice. There's the peg head would be the 4th reason why I think maybe the body's been refinished. Look at the peg head. It doesn't quite match the level of cleanliness, if you will. It's still very nice, but you can see the peg head looks kind of old, if you will. Where the rest of the finish doesn't really look old. So that's the 4th thing that makes me suspect, highly suspect, that this has been refinished. The neck also shows wear here. And with that much wear on the neck, I think you'd see more wear on the body. And also with the finger grooves in here that it's been played, I think you'd see more wear on the body. You know, but it's a beautiful guitar. I have never seen one this old, this nice, ever. It's really nice. It's really nice. And now with our new parts that we've made for it, we can bring her back to life. So let's do that. This end pin button, because of the tape on there, I'm not sure this is original either. But it came with this. I'm going to put it back in there and press it in place and call it good. I would be a little leery of holding the guitar with that because of the way it's in there. So that's a note to the owner that you might want to be a little leery of that. I wouldn't walk around with a strap and expect that to be the thing that's going to hold the guitar. It probably will. It probably won't come out. But just know that that is, you know, in there the way it is in there. Because I don't want to change it because it may be original, and I don't want to be the one that took away the originality. So there you go. I am wondering why this bridge is so crooked. Why it's so high on this side and so low on this side. It really makes me wonder about that. We're going to do a little light fret leveling on this just to make sure the frets are in good shape. It's got small frets on it. I can tell it's had fret work done over the years just by looking at it. But I'm going to try to clean it up a little bit, oil the fretboard, and we'll bring you back when we get that finished. As I mentioned, I really wanted this to be original finish on this guitar, but it just won't let me believe it is. And now I am absolutely 100% sure it's not original finish. Unfortunately. I would love it if it was original finish. Nobody would like it better, but it's not. And so let me show you the final proof. You know, as you're putting this on here, and I already put a string on here and I had to take it back off because it was the pin going through and the string button was just touching this top. Well, I got to thinking, if that's touching the top now, then it's got to be touching the top in the past, because what I've done here is no different than what was on there. I mean, even though I made this, it can't be any different angle. There's nothing different about what I did here than what was original. You know, I got to looking at this, and sure enough, if you look close, you can see scars down in the wood, but they're covered up. Maybe you can see those little scars. There's little scars here, and they've been sanded out and covered up, and then the refinishing. And that's why that dye is in that end grain and stuff. And that's, you know, I could tell that it looked like it had been refinished because of those other factors, but now I'm absolutely positive that it's been refinished because there's no scarring there at all. And I don't care how careful you are, in 100 years you're going to scar that a little bit. You know, I don't care if you're incredibly careful. In 100 years, you're going to scar that a little bit. And sure enough, the scarring is under the finish. So, that absolutely proves to me this is a refinished guitar. And I hate to say that, but boy, it's still a beautiful guitar. And whoever did the refinishing did a super good job. When you flip this over and the strings are through here and the pegs are through here, there's very little clearance to the top. I'm going to be able to cut the pegs off where they just barely clear, and that'll be fine because they're wood. But that little string nut that's on there, it's metal, and it's going to hit these tops, and at least it could, and it could vibrate and all that. So I'm going to attempt, and I may hate myself for this because I could screw this up, but I'm going to attempt to route out a little bit of a cavity in here for each of those string nuts to sit into. Well, I hope that improves things and doesn't screw up things. Anytime you're removing wood, obviously you're making the wood weaker, but because this is ebony, number one, and because we're going across the grain with the string, I think it'll be fine. If I was going with the grain, I would definitely not do something like that. But I think that will give a pocket for those strings to ride, or at least I hope it does. What the idea is, and of course I'll have to cut this off some more yet, but the idea is to have it right up in a pocket there. And yeah, it definitely did that. It worked real good. Only about half of the nut is exposed now versus the whole nut sticking out below there. And I think that'll be enough to make the difference. And then what I'm going to try to do is cut the pegs off so that they are about the height of the nut sticking through also. So I would rather have the wooden peg hit first, and so I'm going to leave them just a hair below the metal nut. And that one really is just about there right now, so I'm going to probably say that one's good. The other ones are longer. This was the shortest one. I'm going to do more of that work, and I'll bring you back. Well, I got down to the last pin on putting these strings in this guitar, and this one, you know, the button was way down inside. I mean, like, you know, all the way to the bottom. And so you couldn't see it. It looked weird compared to the other ones. And so I just took a little X-Acto knife, got in there and started picking around, and it popped out. It's incredibly thin. I mean, like wafer thin. It's like 2 sheets of paper thick, maybe, if that. Right on the end of my finger there. And so this hole is really deep. So I'm just going to fill it the old-fashioned way. It's going to take a little while for this to dry, unfortunately. That's the problem. But I'm just going to fill the hole with wood filler. Then we'll just have to wait for it to dry. I'm trying to pack it down in there really good. And then I'll just glue that button right back on it, trying to just leave a slight divot there in the top just so that the button has some place to go. And what I'm calling a button, of course, is just a little tiny piece of abalone shell inlay. I don't think the abalone would stick to the plastic wood good enough, so I'm just going to go ahead and let that dry, and then I'll use some CA glue to just attach it then. I mean, it was so far down in there, it just looked really weird compared to the other ones, so we have to do something to make it better. You can see we got her all set up, tuned up. The bridge is on it. I set the intonation perfectly, and that moved the bridge back some, so there is a little bit of a scar in front of the bridge there. I think they had it scooted forward so that this tail that goes through the bridge would fit up better, but I prefer the intonation. So I put new felt under these parts. We got it poked into the end of the. There's 2 pins here that are poked in there under the fretboard, and you can see that the part I made, it has a natural bow in the metal here. That's done because of the tension of the strings pulling this thing forward like that, which is probably why it broke the plastic and wore the plastic out. You can see there's there's clearance from the ends of the pins there underneath. Between the top, you can see that there is clearance. Before I did what I did by cutting the pins off and dishing out that underneath there was not much clearance at all. If anything, it was actually touching. So it's in real good shape now. I don't think you could get it up in much better shape. I am 100% convinced it is refinished. There's no question about that. It's kind of sad, but whoever did it did a really nice job. It's a beautiful guitar. It's just beautiful. And there's a few little minor scratches on it, you know, very minor, like around here on the side there's a little scratch and a few little things, but there's very little, very little. Very nice guitar. So let's see what she sounds like. So let's play a little tune on here for you. I'll hit some chords first so you can see what it sounds like. Call me Two Gun, and I answer when they call. My friends call me Two Gun, and I answer when they call. I got one in my boot tops and one in my overall. Now I got a good line and it works every time. Yes, I've got a good line and it works every time. And when I start to use it, the women all stand in line. You may think I'm lying, that what I say ain't true. You may think I'm lying, that what I say ain't true. Well, if you don't believe me, woman, just let me try my line on you. Well, there you have it, a Gibson L3, been completely restored, I guess you'd say, and it's got a new tailpiece that will work for many, many years to come, I believe. That's a beautiful paint job on there, a beautiful staining and finish job, I really should say. It's not paint, but it's very, very nicely redone, and hope you enjoyed this video and see how we put her back together. Thank you for watching. How about a thumbs up? Tell your friends.